Well, hello, friends. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's having a good night. Happy Friday. It is Friday. Figured probably should do a live. I know we got, obviously, everybody's losing their minds about the crime scene photos and stuff like that. I myself personally was looking at them, going through them. Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome on in. Welcome on in. Let me come over to chat and say hi. Bluebird, hello. If you're still here, welcome in. Mary, hello. Michelle F., good to see you. New Orleans lady, always good to see you. Love it when you're here. Mish Girl, hello. Willie, what up, homie? Sarah, hello. Beach Babe, hello. Donna, hello. Beckles, hello. Woman Power, hello. Fizzy Cake. Lucy, BB bitches. What's up, darling? How you doing? I hope you're feeling better. I hope you're doing good. Happy Friday. Who else am I missing? Noelle. Oh, welcome on in. Good to see you, Noelle. Gina. Cheers, darling. Happy Friday. Bunny. Nah, you didn't miss anything yet. Love my life. Good to see you. Welcome on in. Thanks, everybody, for being here. P-Fox. Yay. Always good to see you. Well, so if you like my Michael Myers photo, yes, I mean, officially it's Halloween for me. August 1st is Halloween for me. LR, good to see you. Welcome on in. Mama 5, hello. Meet some Z's, good to see you. Stone, hello. Always good to see you. All right, well, welcome on in, everybody. So we're going to look at something first. Tonight's not nothing. I'm not reading docs or anything like that. We're just kind of going over the last few days, and we're going to look at some photos together. And I'm going to try and zoom in as much as I can. I know I'm seeing a lot of people talking about, like, where's the blood? Where's the blood? It's there. I promise it's there. And we're going to look at it together. There is a lot of blood. So, if you have not seen that, we'll look at it together. I should put maybe like a trigger warning or something. Trigger warning. We're going to be looking at least one photo where you can definitely, well, maybe two actually, where you can definitely see lots of blood. So, trigger warning, trigger warning. There is a lot of blood in one of these rooms, especially, and I think it's Ethan and Xana's room, but it's like all over this nightstand. There is what looks like actual arterial spray pooling. It's really interesting because, like, I'm looking at some of the patterns on the blood drop, pooling, smears, spray, right? It's very interesting. The patterns, the blood, we'll look at it together. But yeah, there is a trigger warning here. You know, give it a thumbs up on your way in, friends. Happy Friday. Good to see you. Let me share screen here. Let me remove this for a second. Actually, no, I can leave that there. We'll just do this. Welcome on in, everybody. Welcome in. I'm about to go into another screen, so I'm sorry if you come in and I don't see you. Meg P. Is Meg P here? Meg P, darling, beautiful. Hello. All right, we're going to go look at this. This is from the sun. Now, I understand people can tell, oh, it's just the sun or whatever. I don't care. They have photos, so it is what it is. We're going to go look at them together because here on my computer, what I can do is magnify the image. So hopefully you guys will be able to see that when I do that. Let's go here. Want to make sure you guys can see this though. Okay, you can. Let me do this and that. That should make it big for you. Let's go do this. All right, so here, I don't know if it's going to show you, but I can magnify image. Okay, zoom in. Right. So can you guys see that when I do that? I wonder. You can't, son of a bitch. So you guys can't see my magnified image. Mother effer. Let's scroll through. So this is the picture here that I was talking about, and unfortunately, there is no way for me to make this bigger. And that's going to piss me off because I can right-click magnify image on my end, and I can see all of this blood pooling here on this nightstand in this room. Along with over here on the wall to the left. If you zoom in, go up, you'll see the actual like sprays of blood on the wall as well. So this is the photo that I was talking about, and when I magnify, you guys can't see it. So that pisses me off. Let me think. Oh, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. Okay, I'm going to put this link in the chat for this article that we're looking at. Tara, hello. Good to see you. Jackie, hello. Always good to see you, darling. Stephen, hello. Welcome in. If there's anybody else I miss. Oh, Twiz. Hello, Twiz. How are you? Good to see you. Welcome in, everybody. All right, so I put the link here. I don't want to pin it though. Well, yeah, I'll leave it there for a minute. So this link that I put up on the screen for everybody is to the article that we're looking at. If you want, you can go do the same thing that I'm doing. Go bring up the article on your laptop. You can right click and zoom in, magnify the image. If you do that, I promise you, you are going to see some very interesting blood pooling. You're going to see some very interesting blood smearing on this table. This little side table here next to the bed. I know you guys can't see it, but there is what looks like a straw on the floor, and then you also have the white straw sticking out from underneath the pink blanket. And then to the right of that pink blanket and the straw, you can see what looks like another straw on the floor. You zoom in on the image, looks like some phone cords or something, or it actually looks like it might be to an electric blanket that's under the sheet, because it looks like the cord goes up under the blanket. I don't know, it could be for like a electric blanket. But the smears of blood on this nightstand to the right here, as well as the pooling that's happening on the bottom of the nightstand there, that's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Because that means at some point someone who is bleeding profusely is standing next to and or over this little nightstand, and they're bleeding out. And furthermore, the smearing, right? The stains are very, very interesting. The blood pattern here is very interesting. I'm going to be super excited to hear Scott Roeder, his take on this when he is on Lana's channel next week. You know, because that's kind of Scott Roeder's thing. Blood spatter, things like that, blood pooling, droplets, the angles of them, and all of those things, right? So I'm super interested in hearing what Scott Roeder has to say about the blood pooling specifically in this photo, and some of the arterial spray, I guess you could call it, that is happening on the wall back there, behind the black pillows. Up against the wall, you can see there's a lot of spray on the wall behind those black pillows. You can also see on the left wall, right above the blurred image, on the blue blanket that's blurred, there's also what looks to be some kind of arterial spray and like drips as well on the left there. So just wanted to, that's why I put the link in chat for anybody who wants to, because it's not, obviously you guys can't see it the way that I am, because I can like right click on the image and magnify. So no, I know who I'm looking at. I understand that's Ethan that I'm looking at, Tara. I know that. What I'm getting at is the pooling, right? The pooling that's occurring over there by that little nightstand to the right, and the arterial spray that is happening on the wall back there. So that's what I'm talking about. It's very interesting to me, specifically because there's the, what we were told, right? They're sleeping. Everybody's sleeping. Well, with that blood pooling that you have next to that nightstand, as well as the smearing and everything, they're not sleeping. Someone is bleeding out over there next to that nightstand. At some point, they are upright and bleeding out, and I don't know who that is. Right? It's anybody's guess, but it's very interesting. And the way that it's blurred out too, I know a lot of people are wondering, like, I thought Ethan was unclothed. I thought Ethan was naked. I'm pretty sure Ethan is naked. It's because even in the report is stated that there's a blanket over him, like up to his waist. And the way that he was angled with his head up against the wall, right? So it's really interesting to me, the pooling that you have. I'm not joking. Like, this blood pooling over here at this nightstand is wild. It's wild considering what we were told, how people were attacked, and right, the blood pattern alone in this one photo is wild to me. The pooling, and like even if you zoom in, so like, you know, right click, magnify image, you can zoom in, even some of the droplets and the pooling that's on the sheet or the pink blanket there, also very interesting. Very, very interesting. Because the blood If you zoom in on this pink blanket, it's actually all over it, including the part of the blanket that's hanging off the side of the bed. It has blood all over it, all down around it. So someone is already standing over here, bleeding out profusely near this nightstand. Their blood is pooling on the bottom of the nightstand and on the floor in puddles. But it's also all over this pink blanket, right? And if he was asleep and killed in his sleep in bed, well, then that can't be Ethan that's over here bleeding out over this night table. And I'm not trying to be graphic or anything at all. This is not a disrespect to victims. This is literally just, we're looking at crime scene photos. So, I mean, it is what it is. I'm gonna talk like we're looking at crime scene photos. You know what I mean? So it's obviously not Ethan. Xana's found not over here near this nightstand, and she's not found here in this bed where all this blood is on this pink blanket. So how is she on the floor by the door to the room? If this is all of her blood, she's been attacked. Her blood is now all over this blanket. She's pooling over here by the nightstand. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, especially where some of these documents were claiming that Ethan and Xana were attacked at the same time. I don't know. It's very interesting when you look at, I mean, I hope everybody's doing this right along with me and you have this up on your computer and you're zooming in and magnifying the image and looking at some of the pooling that is occurring and the smears, the blood smears. It almost literally looks like thumbprints, partial palm print or thumbprint that has smeared. It's like someone has grabbed onto the nightstand and like blood is smearing as they're grabbing on, and it's also it's pooling, it's falling down on this nightstand. It's now pooling at the bottom of it and on the floor next to it. So someone is standing here, literally bleeding out with blood pouring out, and that's why it is pooling in these different spots in these patterns. It's the patterns that are wild to me. We'll go look at some blood pooling patterns, things like that. We can go look at some stuff like that together, and maybe you guys will understand what I'm saying. This photo here is another one that's interesting to me. I'm not sure what room this is from, but these little drops here that you have, see how there's like a void in between these drops? I don't know if you guys can see that. Well, if you're on the article like I am and you're following along on this photo, so this photo is interesting because we have a void, right? So when you're looking at these little droplets here, right, that's kind of one of the things that they look for when they're checking, like when they're doing blood spatter analysis and stuff. You're looking for voids, right? Because when there's a void, that means there's something there and the blood has gone around it and like landed on the floor. And the way that these drops are super interesting to me because we have like a whole bunch over here to the right, and they almost appear to be like kind of like this weird like zigzag pattern almost, but then there's a void in the middle, and then to the left you have 4 little 1, 2, 3, 4 drops, and it's almost like a half a circle shape. I just don't know what room this is from, but that's pretty interesting because there's a void there. Let's go back and look at this one real quick. Let me magnify this Magnify image here. I know you guys can't see this, but that's what I'm looking for is voids. I'm looking for prints, voids in the blood, because that's what you're going to look for when you're looking for patterns, especially if you have a void that just happens to be like foot-shaped, boot-shaped, human-shaped, right? Those are the types of voids that you want to be looking for. All right. So those ones, and then there's another one here. So this is the one, obviously with the beer pong table and shit. Now you can see, I know you guys can't see it. I can see it because I can magnify the image. But if you go to these images and you magnify yourself, you will see that they have something blurred out here. It looks like possibly Xana on the floor in her room. But it's a blurred out image. And you can't really see it that well in this photo, but there is a knife on this beer pong table behind these beer pong cups. There's definitely a knife there. And then what I found interesting about the kitchen photo here is this napkin on the floor. At first, I thought it was a piece of paper. But then when we're talking, she's got a kind of looks like a napkin, and I think she's right. It's out of the DoorDash bag or whatever. But what's interesting to me about this napkin is when you really zoom in on it, it looks like there's some writing on it. I can't tell what. And then to the right of that napkin, there's this white shit all over the floor. I really can't tell what it is at first. I'm not going to lie to you. I was like, is that a bunch of pills? It looked like a bunch of pills to me all over the floor. But then there's also what looks like all the way to the right over here under the cabinet. There's like this white, like horseshoe shaped object. To me, it looks like someone's mouth guard. Anybody else see that? If you zoom in on this photo, Lana, hello, darling. Paper towel. I don't know. It's definitely like the shape of a sheet of paper, which is why I lean more towards napkin, but you know, whatever. Just oh, I put Meanie. Hey Meanie, how you doing? I did put the link in chat. Hang on, I'll put it in there for you again. This is the article that we're looking at with these photos specifically. So if anybody wants to follow along and you want to zoom in and magnify images as well, feel free. But if you zoom in on this one, it kind of looks like someone's like mouth guard. Or I almost thought it was a retainer, and I knew that wasn't the right word, but like a mouth guard or like a teeth whitening tray or something like that. Like legit, if you zoom in on this photo, that's kind of what it looks like. On the right hand side, down on the floor to the right of the paper towel napkin looking thingy. By the fridge and the cabinet there, all the way on the bottom, to me it looks like a mouth guard. And then there's that white either napkin or sheet of paper or whatever it is in the middle of the floor. Then there's this white debris all over the floor. At first, I thought it was pills. I'm not even going to lie to you. I thought it was a bunch of pills like spilled all over the floor. But there's what looks like a yellow highlighter marker or something by the little mat, the floor mat. And then to the right of that, it looks like, I don't know. I mean, to me, it looks like a mouth guard or like a teeth whitening tray. But what do I know? And of course, out back here, you can see the footprints they were talking about in the snow, right? And there's Koberger. Okay, so I did put the link in chat. Anybody who wants to go look at those photos, feel free. I'm going to stop sharing that for a second because there's something else that I wanted to look at and share. Hope everybody's having a great Friday. Welcome on in. Welcome on in. Thanks everybody for being here. Too Fast for Fleas. You're so pretty. Good to see you. Apples Park, hello. Sandra, hello. Who else am I missing? Stephen Fillmore, hello. Twinkle, hello. Good to see you. Willat, welcome on in. The done one, hello. Yeah, right? Isn't that what it looks like? Teeth whitener tray or like a mouth guard or something? That's kind of what it looked like to me too. But what do I know? Just giving my opinion. Listen, Linda. Hello. How are you? Good to see you, darling. Stacy Martell. Hello. No worries. It's okay if you're late. There is a link in chat somewhere if you want to click on that. We were just looking at that article. There's some good photos in there. You can go ahead and magnify image, zoom in, blah, blah, blah. What I wanted to share with you. Let's see. Spray images. All right, here we go. So, which one am I going to bring up? Sorry, friends, hang on 1 second. Sorry, hang on. It's a PDF, so hang on. Go. Share screen. All right, hopefully, let me make sure everybody can see this real quick. Yes. Okay, cool. How's my audio holding up? Everything good? Everybody having a great Friday, I hope. Thanks for hanging out with me on a Friday night. Good to see you. All right, so we're going to get into this little read here. It's only 6 pages. All right. Blood spatter reading, how blood stain pattern analysis works. If you're flipping channels one day and come upon a crime scene as depicted in one of the many TV shows that focus on forensic science, like CSI or Dexter, you may have noticed something that seems pretty unusual. Amongst the technicians dusting for fingerprints and collecting hair fibers at the murder scene, the camera pans on an array of red strings running from the floor, the wall, the table, and the sofa. All of the strings seem to meet in a specific area. Suddenly, an investigator begins recounting aspects of the crime, like when it happened, where the assault took place in the room, what kind of weapon was used on the victim, and how close the assailant was to him. How could he have learned that information from strings? The strings themselves aren't important. They're simply a tool to help investigators and analysts draw conclusions about a substance that's often found at crime scenes: blood. We've become used to hearing how blood samples are used to identify someone through DNA, but the blood itself, where it lands, how it lands, its consistency, and the size and shape of the blood droplets or spatter can determine a lot of significant aspects of the crime. Of course, analyzing blood spatter isn't nearly as simple as fictional bloodstain pattern analysts like Dexter Morgan might make it appear to be. Experts in the field often say that it's as much an art as it is a science. If there happen to be multiple victims and multiple assailants, it becomes even more complex. But a well-trained and seasoned blood stain pattern analyst can often provide key information that leads to arrest and conviction. Let's start with the basics of blood stain pattern analysis. For example, what blood spatters can reveal and what they can't. All right, basics of blood. As unpleasant as it is to deal with, when a crime results in bloodshed, the blood left behind functions as evidence for investigators. A blood stain A bloodstain pattern analyst can't simply glance at drips and smears of blood and immediately tell you the who, what, when of a crime scene. Blood spatter analysts take time. Blood spatter analysis takes time and is just one piece of the puzzle when investigators are putting together the elements of a crime. However, bloodstain pattern analysis can corroborate other evidence and lead investigators to seek additional clues. After close analysis, blood spatters can indicate important information such as type and velocity of weapon, number of blows, handedness of the assailant, position and movements of the victim and the assailant during and after the attack, which wounds were inflicted first, type of injuries, how long ago the crime was committed, whether death was imminent or delayed. Blood spatters can lead to the recreation of crime because of how blood behaves. Blood leaves the body as a liquid that follows the laws of motion and gravity. It travels in spherical drops due to surface tension. Blood molecules are very cohesive or attracted to each other, so they squeeze against each other until they form a shape with the smallest area possible. These drops behave in predictable ways when they strike a surface or a force acts upon them. Imagine what happens when you spit water droplets on the floor. Water falls slowly to the ground, making a circular puddle. The shape and size of the puddle depends on how much water you pour, how high you hold the water glass, and whether you're spilling it on carpet, wood, linoleum, or some other surface. A lot of water makes a larger puddle. If the water falls from a distance, the puddle will be smaller in diameter. A hard surface will retain more of a circular shape, while carpet absorbs some of the water and makes the edges spread. So it's showing here how blood stain pattern analysis works. The diameter of the blood stains increases, height increases. So as the height increases, the larger your pool of blood is going to be, right? The larger the drop, right? The diameter of the blood stain increases as height increases. So the higher up you hold a cup of water and pour it out, right? Larger in diameter droplets you're going to get. But you're also going to get some tinier ones that pop off of those as well. So it's showing you in this little diagram here, basically how big, they can get. If you're up to 7 feet, look at, so I just want, I'm not going to tell anybody what to think at all. But keep in mind the pooling on the floor, the pooling that is underneath that little nightstand, the size of those pools, okay? At what height are you going to get those pools? Right? So if we're looking at this diagram here, at about what height would you say the person bleeding would have to be to make pools like that? They're not small, Twiz. The pools of blood on that nightstand and on the floor are actually pretty big. And because of the height. So I'm just saying, if you're looking at this diagram here, I don't know how well you guys can see that. I have it as big as I possibly can on my screen here. At a height of about between 6 and 7 feet is where you're going to get your larger in diameter pools and droplets between 6 and 7 feet. All right. Dried and clotted. Over time, blood spatters dry. How quickly this happens depends on the surface where the blood landed, how much blood is contained in the spatter, and the heat and humidity of the crime scene. The outer edges dry first. A really dry blood spatter can skeletonize, flaking off and leaving a ring around the original diameter of the spatter. An analyst can help pinpoint when the crime occurred based off the dryness of the blood. That's interesting, because a lot of that blood is still wet and pooled. So that's interesting. Although initially it behaves as liquid, blood eventually begins to clot after it leaves the body. Clotting can occur within 15 minutes. If some blood spatters are more clotted than others, it can indicate that multiple blows or gunshots occurred over a period of time. Blood spatters can also contain bits of tissue and bone. This usually points to a high impact spatter, and the type of tissue can help to determine the depth and severity of the injuries that were sustained in the attack. Blood spatter. Blood behaves in much the same way as those spilled water droplets. A low velocity spatter is usually the result of dripping blood. The force of impact is 5 feet per second or less, and the size of the droplets is somewhere between 4 and 8 millimeters. This type of blood spatter often occurs after a victim initially sustains an injury, not during the infliction of the injury itself. For example, if the victim is stabbed and then walks around bleeding, the resulting drops are a rare type of low velocity spatters known as passive spatters. Low velocity spatters can also result from pools of blood around the body of a victim and transfers, impressions left by weapons or smears, and trails left by movement. It can occur with some injuries such as bleeding sustained from a punch. A medium velocity spatter is one that had a force of anywhere from 5 to 100 feet per second, and its diameter is usually no more than 4 millimeters. This type of spatter can be caused by a blunt object, such as a bat or an intense beating with a fist. It can also result from a stabbing. Unlike with low density spatter, when a victim is beaten or stabbed, arteries can be damaged. If they're close to the skin, the victim bleeds faster and blood can spurt from the wounds as his or her heart continues to pump. This results in a larger amount of blood in a very distinctive pattern. Analysts call this phenomenon projected blood. If we're using the water example, a medium density spatter might have come from a high-powered squirt gun. High-velocity spatters are usually caused by gunshot wounds, although they can be caused by other weapons if the assailant exerts an extreme amount of force. They travel more than 100 feet per second and usually look like a fine spray of tiny droplets. That's what's all over those walls. Less than 1 millimeter in diameter. Bullet wounds are unique because they can have both back and front spatters or just back spatters. This depends on whether the bullet stopped after entering the victim's body or traveled through it. In most cases, the back spatter is much smaller than the front spatter because the spatter travels in the direction of the bullet. Analysts always look for voids or empty places in the spatters that indicate that something or someone caught the spatter instead of the surrounding surfaces. In the case of a high-density spatter, this may mean that the assailant got some of the victim's blood on himself or herself. Sometimes a blood spatter can look like it was high velocity when it was actually a medium or low velocity spatter. Cast-off droplets can fall from larger drops of blood. A savvy analyst looks for larger drops of blood among the many tiny drops to see if they are cast-offs. These types of droplets are also found on places like ceilings when the rest of the spatters are concentrated elsewhere. Blood spatters can also overlap each other, which can show which gunshot or stab wound took place first. Size and force of the impact are only two aspects of determining information about blood spatters. Next, we'll look at the shapes of spatters and how analysts use strings, trigonometry functions, and computer programs to map out blood-spattered crime scene. Let me see here. Did they put it in here? Yeah, they did. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure that they put it in here in this one. So, the way of the gun, right? If a gunshot occurred at close range, the victim might have stippling or burns on his skin from gunpowder. Shots fired at a very close range can also cause internal muzzle staining. When this happens, the victim's blood is sucked back into the gun's muzzle by the cooling of the explosive gases that are released when a shot is fired. Testing the gun's muzzle for blood can provide an additional clue to solve a case. The physics of blood spatter. Blood is a water-based substance, creates property of blood known as cohesion. Cohesion is where molecules of the same substance are attracted to one another. This affects another property called surface tension. Surface tension is where molecules on the top layer of a liquid do not want to separate from one another, causing them to form a false skin on the surface of the liquid. This surface tension does several things that affect the behavior of liquids like water and blood. It causes the liquid to form a sphere when falling, and to coalesce when the sphere is shattered in order to form new, smaller spheres. Passive drops are drops that fall on their own due to the force of gravity on the source of the blood. In the case of passive drops, the size of the drop plays a role in the size of the spatter. Bigger drop, bigger spatter. Increasing velocity of the drop also causes an increase in the diameter of the spatter in passive drops of blood. Passive drop increases velocity as it falls due to the effects of gravity. Velocity increases when drops fall from greater heights. However, pattern will not become larger at heights above 7 feet. Droplet reaches terminal velocity due to friction. Increased velocity also creates increased spikes, increased satellite droplets. There are 4 phases of impact when a drop of blood strikes a surface. A drop will go through these same 4 steps any time it strikes a surface. It will contact and collapse. Displacement, it'll spread out, so the blood droplet is going to flatten on impact. It's going to displace and spread out. Dispersion, some particles will fly off main drops at the edges, and then retraction. Particles not completely separated suck back into the main drop due to the adhesive forces. The patterns left by falling or projected drops of blood can help investigators determine where a crime took place. Therefore, blood drops and stains should be examined closely before the evidence is collected. The shape of a blood drop can indicate the distance from which the blood fell and the angle of its impact. However, very few studies have been done on the patterns produced when blood impacts a surface. Therefore, a thorough forensic scientist will carry out his or her own experiments on the shape of the blood droplets. To be accurate, the scientist will conduct the tests under conditions very much like those found at the crime scene. While a droplet is falling, it is primarily spherical shape. This is surprising to some people who may have visualized droplets as tear-shaped, as cartoonists often draw them. The smaller the droplet, the more spherical its shape during its fall. As a drop falls through the air, it accelerates until it reaches a constant terminal velocity. Measurements have shown that a blood drop resulting from dripping at a height of 15 feet has a volume of about 0.05 milliliters and falls at a velocity of about 25 feet per second. Smaller drops have a terminal velocity that is less than 25 feet per second, and larger drops have a terminal velocity that is greater than 25 feet per second. Therefore, An individual blood droplet can give an investigator the following useful information: the droplet speed at time of impact, the direction of the droplet's travel, the approximate size of a blood drop, round drops. If you examine a blood droplet that struck a surface straight on at a 90-degree angle from the surface, the droplet is generally round. Straight-on impacts on hard, smooth surfaces produce round droplets with smooth edges. Higher velocities and rougher surfaces produce drops with more ragged edges. Elongated drops. The angle of impact of a droplet affects the droplet shape. When the angle of impact is 90 degrees, the droplet is round. However, droplets that fall on surfaces at an angle that is greater than 90 degrees have elongated shapes. The larger the angle, the more elliptical the droplet. Dripping and spraying. Blood drops can be produced in several ways. A droplet that forms slowly, as in a dripping wound, has a volume of about 0.05 milliliters. However, smaller droplets are produced during active situations, such as fights and beatings. Smaller droplets are produced during active situations, such as fights or beatings. Blood droplets, as small as an aerosol spray, indicate that the wound was produced by a powerful force, such as a gunshot or an explosion. Stringing, sign, and spatter shapes. The technique of stringing, attaching strings to each spatter to see where they converge. Same thing they almost do when they're doing bullets too. When they're reconstructing a crime scene where firearms were used. They use those poles in the string, right? Welcome on in, everybody. Let me come back to chat. I've been over in my own screen here just reading on this blood stuff. How's everybody doing? Oh, thanks, Lana. Hello, darling. Hello. Sorry. I'm trying to keep an eye on my chat from my phone, but I can't. I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Moto Man, look at you. You're freaking amazing. And yes, blood is an amazing substance. It behaves as its own living thing. You are so right, sir. And thank you so much for your super chat or super sticker. I'm not sure which one that is, but thank you so much. Sorry, guys. I was in another window and I could not see my chat. I really appreciate you. So hopefully we're all learning a little something together here. Isn't it interesting though? So just keep in mind the blood spatter, the pooling and the spatter in that photo. Gen 7, darling. Hello, always good to see you, honey. So just keep, when we're reading all of this and we're looking at all of this, please just keep in mind the pooling, the droplets that are in that room, and the pooling that is in that room in that photo. Spicy chicken nuggets. Hello. Now, there is a lot of blood in there, darling. We were actually just looking at a photo that has a lot of blood. There's a lot of blood in that room. There's a lot of pooling. There's a lot of different kinds of droplets. There's spray on the walls. Yeah, there's a lot of blood for sure. Justine, hello. Well, good morning to you. Is it morning where you are, darling? It's evening here, but happy Friday. It's Friday night here, but good morning to you. You haven't seen any bloody photos yet, Moto Man? We were just going through some. I'll put the link. This is the article. I think I kept it open. Did I keep it open? Or did I? No, I didn't. I closed it out. I promise you, somewhere in the chat, there is a link, and there's a photo in there that we went through. So the stringing that they do here with blood is kind of the same thing they do when there's a crime scene that has where firearms were used. They use those like rods and string, figure out where the gunshots all came from, and they use the string to see like where everything converges. This is your area of convergence, right? So the technique of stringing, attaching strings to each spatter to see where they converge, is just one way to determine the area of convergence or source of the blood. Most TV shows like Dexter focus only on analysts looking at the strings and making statements about the crime, not on the process involved. In the stringing method, which is still used by many analysts, the analyst documents the location of each spatter using the coordinate system. Then he or she establishes a level line to show how the spatter is oriented in relation to the floor and the ceiling. Using elastic string, the analyst draws lines from each spatter through the level line. Then he or she uses a protractor on the level line in the area where the strings converge to determine the angle of flight for each spatter. If the spatters are mostly on a wall, the analyst can measure the distance from the area of convergence to the wall to find out where the victim was located. Some analysts use trigonometric, I can never say that word, trigonometric calculations to find the area of convergence, which basically means that they use triangles to figure it out. The measurements of the blood stain become the sides of a right triangle. The length of the stain is the triangle's hypotenuse, and its width is the side opposite the angle the analyst is trying to find. Okay. First, the analyst has to locate each spatter and measure its length and width using a scale, a ruler, or calipers. Then he or she computes the angle using this formula. So here's what an analyst has to do for this work. Measure the length and width of the spatter. I don't know why they have splatter in here so many times. It's spatter. Divide the width of the spatter by its length. Determine the arcsin of that number, typically using a calculator with an arcsin function. A drop of blood that fell perfectly vertically or at a 90-degree angle will be round. So it shows you here in this little diagram, 90 degrees, 80 degrees, 70 degrees, 60 degrees. When it falls at a 90-degree angle, it's almost perfectly round. And as the angle of impact increases, the drop of blood gets longer and develops a tail, almost like a comet. I don't know if any of you have ever watched comets, but, right? As the comet gets brighter and closer to the sun, its tail gets longer and longer, and it starts to get brighter and brighter. That's kind of what blood droplets remind me of. I'm not even joking you, like, it's wild. That's the best way for my brain to compute it anyway. A drop of blood that fell perfectly vertically or at a 90-degree angle will be round. As the angle of impact increases, the drop of blood gets longer and develops a tail. This tail points in the direction that the drop traveled, but its length isn't part of the measurements. The greater the difference between the width and length, the sharper the angle of impact. For example, imagine a blood stain 2 millimeters wide and 4 millimeters long. The width divided by the length is 0.5. The arcsin of 0.5 is 30. So the blood hit the surface at a 30-degree angle. In a blood stain that is 1 millimeter wide and 4 millimeters long, the ratio between them is 0.25. In this case, the blood hit the surface at about a 14-degree angle. So now keep in mind all of the pooling and the staining that we just looked at in that room. And then look at this diagram, right? So in this diagram, it's showing if they were, so if we were to go and look at that photo again with all the blood, if we were to say run strings, like they're doing here in these diagrams, all of that pooling and spatter and droplets on the floor and the nightstand and the bed, if you were to run strings on all of that, where do you think your area of convergence is going to end up? In that room. Like, I don't know if ISP did any of this, but I'm almost positive, the crime scene reconstructionist probably did this. I would imagine I would hope whoever the defense team hired to recreate the crime scene brought in a blood spatter person to do all of this, and I hope they used string method here. Come back over to chat. Do you get what I'm saying, though? So if you're looking at this diagram, all of the pooling and the spatter that we saw in that one photo, it's pretty interesting. I'm not going to tell people what to think. It's definitely not my job to tell someone what to think. Let it marinate. I don't know what else to say. But when you're looking at the pooling that's occurring in that specific photo, between the spray on the wall, the way the droplets are, the angle of the droplets on the wall, the angle of the spray, and the pooling, very, very interesting. Very. A third method involves taking the length and width of each blood spatter as well as other measurements of the area and putting them into a computer program, such as No More Strings. These programs create three-dimensional models and animations of the crime scene and show the area of convergence. Oh, well, goody. Hopefully Josiah Roloff uses this shit. No strings, no more strings. Let's hope that's what Josiah was using, or someone here. When used to present evidence, computer programs can be more compelling and convincing than jargon-filled expert testimony or two-dimensional photographs. I agree. Let's see. Want to get down to here. Maybe it wasn't on this one. Here we go. So, talks about like the history of blood spatter analysis, blah, blah, blah. So this is bloodstain pattern analysis in action, the Chamberlain case. We'll go through this real quick. In August 1980, the Chamberlain family was camping near a rock formation called Ayers Rock in central Australia. Lindy Chamberlain put two of her children, 4-year-old Regan and 10-week-old Azaria, to bed in their tent. When she returned, she cried, quote, "The dingo took my baby." According to Lindy, when she got to the tent, she saw a dingo dragging something out of it. She wasn't close enough to see what it was, but when she checked on the children, she saw that Azaria was missing. As the cry went out, she and her husband Michael, along with other campers, began searching for Azaria. A nearby camper, Sally Lowe, went into the tent to check on the still sleeping Regan. Seeing a small pool of wet blood on the floor of the tent, she realized that Azaria was probably already dead. When the park ranger arrived, she showed him the blood as well as a torn and bloody blanket and blood-stained items in the tent. Police officers took the blanket and found bloodstains on the tent, but didn't take the bloodied clothes of the Chamberlains until long afterwards. When a tourist found the baby's jumpsuit near a dingo lair, it was only slightly torn and bloody, but the snaps were still mostly closed. It was pleated down as if it had been pulled off. The baby had been wearing other clothes that weren't found. A police officer arrived on scene, and as one tourist looked on in amazement, he picked up the bloody jumpsuit and folded it. After a TV station crew showed up, a reporter kept stating that the jumpsuit was found that way. This continued to create more suspicion about the Chamberlains' involvement in Azaria's death. The police claimed to have found bloodstains matching Lindy Chamberlain's blood group in a cave near Ayers Rock. Initially, the small amount of blood found in the tent was suspicious as well. Only later testing of the bassinet mattress showed that it had been saturated with enough blood to have resulted in the death of the baby. Fluorescent examination of the jumpsuit showed that a bloody mark consistent with the action of slitting a throat was present. Throughout the case, the local police improperly handled blood spatter and other evidence. They didn't photograph the crime scene or attempt to preserve materials found there, which essentially rendered many of the conclusions that were reached invalid. However, expert testimony proved to be enough to convict Lindy Chamberlain of murder and her husband of being an accessory to the murder. 3 years later, after another piece of Azaria's clothing was found, Lindy was released. The case officially remains unsolved. The Azaria Chamberlain case shows what can happen when law enforcement isn't trained in blood spatter analysis. Once the scene is changed and clothing is washed, there's no way of getting back that evidence. If the police had properly conducted their investigation, the Chamberlains may have remained incarcerated, or they may have been able to definitively prove that a dingo ate their baby. For lots more information on bloodstain pattern analysis and all the things crime related, check out the links on the next page. I will include this for you guys. But isn't that interesting? So a analysis of the bassinet, including fluorescent light examination, showed that this bassinet was saturated. The bassinet mattress was saturated with blood. So if your baby, right, we shouldn't have the mattress being completely saturated in the baby's blood, right? Because the dingo would snatch the baby and drag it out of the bassinet. If the baby's mattress was saturated in blood, well, that's a different story, right? So I'm going to put that link for you in chat to that article there regarding blood spatter. It didn't have, crazy graphic photos or anything like that. But the main point of me showing you guys this is because it shows you in this diagram here the lower in height that a droplet falls. So if you're really close to the ground and your finger is bleeding, right? If you get really down low to the ground, it's going to be a very small droplet. And as you stand up and get higher and higher and higher, and that blood is pouring out and pouring out and pouring out, the pools and the droplets are getting larger and larger. So just, keep that in mind. And according to this diagram here, you're going to get droplets about this size when you're between 6 and 7 feet in height. So that's interesting. Very, very interesting. And it's not my job to tell anybody what to think. But I'm sure there's some of you that are picking up what I'm putting down, and then some of you it's not computing, and that's okay. I'm not here to tell people what to think, you know what I mean? I just wanted to share some photos and share some information. And more photos we get, maybe we could make some more out of it. I did put in a request for the photos, just like the media did. So hopefully, the rest of us will get the same 180 photos that the media got first. But the pooling of that blood in that room and the pooling that's occurring on the floor in that nightstand, along with the smears, the spray, and the droplets on the wall. Yeah, very, very interesting. So, um, one other thing I wanted to show you. Do, 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 do. Hang on 1 second, friends. All right, let's see. Sorry, guys. Hang on. Taking me a minute. My bad. We're almost there. Da, 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 da. All right. Let's do this and this and this. So let's go. Just look at some images together. Take a look at some cooling. We'll take a look at some spatter, pattern analysis, see what we can see. Hmm. So what it was. Here we go. That's the one I was looking for. So they do have like this classification of blood stains, right? No, I don't want your cookies. Do, 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 do. Sorry, guys. Let me do this. Sorry. Okay. So they have this like automatic. I have to accept their fucking cookies. Automatic classification of blood stains with deep learning methods. It does have a PDF for it, but right here, this is what I wanted was the chart. Can I make this any bigger? So, I don't know how well you guys can see this. The spots we were looking at in one of those pictures, remember I talked about a void. You're going to have these like little droplets, right? And then a space in between, and then there's some more droplets to the left. It's because there's a void there. It's because at some point there was something else there, a person, an object, whatever, that took the spatter. that took the spray. I don't know what room that photo is from. I don't know if it's from the living room, one of the bedrooms. I couldn't tell you because they don't say in the photo where it's from. But they do have some really interesting how it's classified, right? So you have your passive, which is like a clot. You have separation when you have pooling. Then you have your round drop, and then you have like flow. You have pooling, which is what we see at the side table there and on the floor. Then you have transfer. This transfer, these swipes, this wipe and swipe, that's what looks like is on the top of the nightstand. Looks like they're swipes, right? And then the wall, right here, projected, arterial and cast off, and spatter. I would say you may have all of these in this category, just in that one room alone in that photo. It looks like you have all of these. Then there's miscellaneous types. Capillary, fly spot, avoid, skeletonized. That's when it's already dried up and starting to get flaky. But on the one photo that we looked at that has a lot of blood in that room, Ethan and Xana's room, to me it's clear you're seeing passive, okay? You're seeing passive because you have that pooling and you have the droplets, okay? But then you're also seeing transfer because on the top of that little nightstand, you're seeing what looks like swipes, wipes, thumbprints. But then you also have like almost all of this arterial on the wall. You can see that. There's cast off on the wall. You can see that. There's spatter also on the lower wall near the floor. And then you have like what also looks like in some of the photos, there's void. You have blood droplets, but there's like a void. So I kind of wanted to show this to you guys, and I like it as well because it does have the diagram in there. You know, and when I was looking at it earlier at this diagram, I was like, okay, so like right off the rip, I can see just in that one photo alone, we have many of these. We have passive, we have transfer, and projected, in my opinion. And we have some miscellaneous because one of those photos, there's a void. Let's see if there was anything else in this one. Yeah, you guys won't be able to see this. It's like so small. I'll include this for everyone. So if you want to go take a look at it, you can. I more or less wanted to show that because of that diagram. Showing the different classifications. I thought it was pretty interesting. It shows all the different classifications, and really when you're looking at those classifications and comparing them to just that one photo alone, it's actually quite interesting. Like, I'm not going to give my opinion on what I think, because it doesn't matter what I think, but it's really, really interesting. Just that one photo alone, the pooling, the blood patterns in that room are very, very interesting because no one's asleep. And that's all I'm going to say about that. That's the only opinion I'll give. It goes against the whole in bed asleep. Nope. Not at all. And you know, I don't have all of these crime scene photos yet. I did put in a request, but you know, the same computer generated models that they use, you know, to run it's kind of the same thing. It doesn't mean we're not allowed to use it either. You understand? There's definitely things that we can do as well if we wanted to do our own. and have the computer give us the point of convergence and do the string lines for us, right? So, it's just all I'll say is I'm going to go out on a limb here and say they weren't asleep in that room, number one. And number two, based on the pooling and everything that I'm seeing, I don't know how she ended up on the floor by the door, but I'm going to be I'm going to be really interested to see if, okay, because I know Lana's going to get to talk to Sai. I know Sai, blood spatter and stuff is kind of like a side hobby for him. So I mean, he technically is like an expert, I guess, in blood spatter. But if I remember correctly, he said it's more of a hobby and not a profession, but it's always something that intrigued him. I would just be really interested to hear both takes on it. I would like to hear what Sai thinks of the blood in that room and in that photo, and I'd like to hear what Scott Roeder thinks. And I'd like to see if the two are similar. Because what I'm looking at is telling me that they weren't asleep. I'll just keep the rest of it to myself, what I'm thinking, but either way. Did I put that in the link for you guys? Did I put that link in chat yet? Damn it, hang on. Did I copy it yet? Copy, paste. So this is to the document that we were just looking at. There you go. Oopsie. Oh, I did link it. Okay, sorry. Well, whatever. There it is again. So if anybody wants to go look at that little chart, the classification chart, go for it. There it is. Yeah, the picture, yeah, I agree, Moto Man, for sure. 100%. Detective Mowry, you sandbagging son of a bitch, good to see you. Welcome on in. Have you been here the whole time? So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I didn't have too much for you guys. I just wanted to kind of look at those photos. I did share in the chat the article where I got those photos from. If I remember to link them, what do I mean? Mittens for kittens. What do you mean? What do I mean, honey? Bluebird, hello. How are you? Good to see you. Appreciate everybody hanging out tonight. Hope you're having a great Friday. I'm about to dip out of here. I did want to share just a couple of links with you and look at some of those photos. And, only thing I can say is if you have some time today, tomorrow, this weekend, maybe go do a little digging of your own on some blood spatter analysis and the difference between pooling and spray and droplets and how blood moves, and maybe go, find some educational videos on how blood moves and how it pools and things like that, and, come to your own conclusions. Yeah. Well, that's all I'm going to say for now, Mittens for Kittens. Like I said, it's not my job to tell people what to think when they're looking at these photos, right? I always tell everybody that, just like, don't listen to me, come to your own conclusions, do your own research and stuff. But, you know, I will say the blood in this one room is very interesting. Just that one room alone. We haven't even gotten the other room, the full photos of the other room yet. But this photo of Ethan and Xana's room, that is very interesting. What the blood is doing in that room, how that blood is pooled, where everything is It is so very interesting. So very interesting. So, you know, all I know is that I'm looking forward to hearing Scott Roeder what he thinks about it. If Cy has ever shown the photos, and maybe Cy will give his opinion and commentary on it, I don't know. But the blood in that one room alone is incredibly interesting. And I don't know any other way to say it. The blood in that one room alone is a million questions. It's a million questions. So, promise you guys, I did put in a request for the photos. I also put in a request for the body cams of the first responding officers, Gunderson, Smith, Nunes, and there was one other. So I did ask for their body cams of when they first arrived. I asked for all the photos that they may have taken. Yeah. So if I get all 180 like the media did, we'll go through them all together. You guys know me. I understand there's a lot of other people that aren't going to show them. I mean, if I get them unredacted, I, I, I don't know if I'm going to show them or not. I mean, I feel like you can't. How are you going to talk about true crime or talk about a crime scene if you're not going to show the photos, right? Like, I feel like you kind of have to look at the photos. You have, but you know, we'll see. We'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay. I'm not trying to disrespect victims or anything like that, but like we're talking about, eh, I don't know. It's educational, in my opinion. It's incredibly educational, and that's kind of how I've always looked at this. Is like it's for me more of a knowledge thing. It's not a gore thing. So I don't know. I mean, I hope people understand that like I've done that on this channel before where we've looked at other actual crime scene photos. Lots of blood, lots of and the reason we looked at these photos was to idea of this is like might be what we're gonna end up seeing in this home. Different types of spatter, pooling, etc. Right? So I don't know. Like me personally, I want to look at them unredacted. I want to see the photos unredacted. I want to look at video unredacted because to me, then you don't have full context, right? I don't know. I just need the full context, right? So I don't know what we're going to end up doing if I end up getting unredacted crime scene photos and you can actually see, obviously, like them. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I personally am one who's not afraid to show crime scene photos. I'm not afraid to look at them. None of that stuff bothers me. I know how to compartmentalize and, so I don't know. To me, it's educational. And how are we supposed to be educated and get educated and learn if we're gonna tiptoe? I mean, it is true crime. We are talking about homicide cases. Therefore, at some point, crime scene photos are probably going to have to be looked at. You know what I mean? And um, it's not a disrespect to the victims. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, friends. Well, exactly, Lucy. I won't be doing that. I'm not going to put them behind a paywall and say, oh, well, if you want to see the unredacted photos, you need to pay for it. No. I mean, if you want to see the unredacted photos, you can go put in a public records request and go look at them yourself. You know what I'm saying? Go request them, just like the rest of us are doing. But to me, I don't know. What's going on in that one room alone is pretty fucking wild, man, with that blood pooling and the spatter and the spray. It's pretty wild. I mean, there's so many questions just looking at that one room. I have so many questions for Scott Roeder. So, um, you know, yeah, I know, truth seeker. I know, but I'm also not trying to get like a copyright strike or have these families come after me because I'm showing the unredacted versions of the photos either. You know what I mean? Um, I'm not going to put them behind a paywall if I end up not showing them because they are too graphic or whatever. You know, I guess maybe we'll figure out something. I just know that I'm not trying to disrespect any of the victims or their families, but I also understand that looking at crime scene photos is going to be part of my channel at some point. Okay, we've done it before. We've looked at other crime scene photos, unredacted, the blood, the gore, and all. I mean, I'm not, it is what it is. If I'm going to be covering things like this on my channel, at some point we are going to come to the point where we're looking at crime scene photos. It is what it is. We've already done it before. So if that offends someone or if that, it's not to be disrespectful. It's literally educational. It is educational. So there's a new one where Maori, let me go see. Hang on. I'll refresh. See what we got here. What's the new one? Let me check chat. What's the new one, Maori? Where is it? Oh yeah, Willie probably is going live soon. I'm about to dip out of here soon anyway. You guys know me. It's a Friday night. You're lucky you even got me on a Friday night. You know what I mean? So what do you mean, Maori? There's a new photo where, oh, I'll be by, Willie, for sure. MJ's Gold Pants. Holy crap, where you been? Good to see you. Heather One Dimple, hello. New photo with a what? A desk and a box, of course. Yeah, I saw that. Um, hmm. Posted the link where, Mal? You posted a link in my chat? I don't think you can. Buckwheat, what up? Welcome on in. You emailed it to me, Willie? Oh, okay, hang on. Alrighty, hang on, friends. Thanks, Willie. Appreciate you. Email. Give me 1 second, friends. Let me get into my email here. I feel like I have it, but I'm not sure. Hang on. You emailed it to me, you said, Willie? I don't see nothing. I don't have no email from you. Um, it's on Reddit. Well, whatever. If there's a new photo, there's a new photo. You know what I mean? Whatever. It's all fucking brainworms at this point. You know what I mean? I'm not seeing any new photos. I'm looking, but I don't see anything. It's all the same ones. Unless it's on, let me see, forums maybe. Probably on Reddit or some shit. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Hmm. I don't know, friends. I mean, if there's a new one, I'm just not seeing it, and that's okay. I'm fine with it. There's more blood. Okay. Yeah, I saw the one that's like on the Coors box, and I did see that. Willie texted me. Texting me isn't going to work because I'm on my computer, so, yeah, fine. It's what it is. Ah, hang on. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, look at all that blood spatter. Like, bro, the pooling. This, like, just stop it. Stop it. Whose room is this? Where's this from? Whose room is this from? Hella excited utterances. Good to see you, darling. Welcome on in. Always good to see you. Let me send this to myself real quick. I'll bring it up in my email. Hang on, friends. This one's pretty. Oh my god, I have so many questions. So many questions. It's the pooling. It really is. I'm telling you, like blood pooling, blood spatter. It tells a story, man. It tells a whole ass story. It really does. You don't even need someone else to tell you what happened if you know what you're doing with the blood. It's wild. All right, let me get this. I'll show you guys this real quick and then I'm out of here, bro. I gotta get going. I got shit to do. I'm tired. It's Friday night. But this picture's pretty fucking wild. Did I not send it to myself? What is happening? Dang. I know I did. Yeah, I did. Let's refresh. Yeah, gotta be fucking shitting me. I can see it on my phone. There it is. All right, cool. Let's get this bad boy. Download. Yeah, let's download that. Okay. Hang on, friends. I will share that with you. 1 second. Oh, this picture's wild. Holy shit. Trigger warning. Just letting y'all know. Is it that one? Yeah, it's gotta be. Yeah. Holy shit. Okay. Okay. So remember we were talking about pooling. See all these drops? Okay. Trigger warning, friends. See all the spray on the wall here? Look at all of that pooling on the pillow. Right? Look at all those drops. I don't know whose room this is. I have no idea whose room this is, whose bed this is. Couldn't tell you. Looks like it's from Patty's room, maybe? I don't know. But that pooling there on the pillow is pretty interesting. And those droplets on the wall, the pattern on the wall. Hmm, interesting. Very, very interesting. Hmm, hmm. Not gonna lie, the blood tells the story. The blood tells the story. So when we get all of the photos, I did put in a request. It does say on Moscow's website that Lata or Idaho residents are going to get it first, basically, which is fine. Whatever. If you're not an Idaho resident, you got to wait like 28 days, which is fine. So, once I get them all, great. We'll see what we can look at. Echoes, hello, honey. How are you? Good to see you, darling. Victorine, hello. Welcome in, everybody. Who else am I missing? Gosh, I'm just missing a whole bunch of people. Dolphin, hello. Yeah, those stains at Dolphin, yeah. Side that Kaylee was on. Well, that's interesting. That's very, very interesting. Because, I'm just saying, I don't know. It is what it is. I shared some stuff with you guys so that you guys can, everybody can go do whatever they want to do. You can either go brush up on blood spatter, pooling, the difference between spatter and pooling, and things like that. And, they have all of these diagrams and charts, and it's, I guess you can, fill your brain with that kind of stuff because you're probably going to need to know some of that going forward, the more of these crime scene photos that we end up getting. So, uh, yeah, Pharaoh too. If we ever get those, we'll help tell the story exactly. Oh, that's so funny, Meg. Oh, my little watermark up there. Yeah, that's so funny. All right, so I hope everybody has an awesome Friday night. Thank you for hanging out here with me. Um, you know, go enjoy the rest of your Friday. I know Willie's going live. I think Lana might be going live again tonight too later. She usually goes later on Fridays, but definitely go over to Truth Nation Uncensored. Willie's going to be live soon. And yeah, I appreciate every single one of you hanging out here with me tonight. I hope I shared all of the links with you. I did put them in chat. I will try to remember to go back and add them into the video description. Um, and yeah, mods, appreciate you. Thank you so, so much. Appreciate you being here. You know that. Thank you for your super chat. Motoman X, appreciate you. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Once these docs start dropping, you're going to be getting videos from me. I did turn on memberships too. Originally, I wasn't going to, but now that I know how to make videos, what I am going to be doing going forward, because I'm going to get real busy with work. This is the time of year. I get very, very busy with work, and I get very busy with school for my kid. So, what you will be getting from me is a lot of videos coming up as these docs start getting unsealed. I did turn on membership, so if you would like to become a member, please do. Feel free. I am going to be doing some members only content in the future. I will be doing some members only videos and things like that. So yeah, feel free to join if you would like to. If you don't want to, no biggie. But yeah, I did turn them on because going forward, I will be putting out some videos. It's going to be shorter form. I won't be doing these huge lives or anything like that. If I do go live, it's going to be like once a week to kind of recap. But yeah, so hopefully we'll see y'all then. I think oh, look at Justine. Look at you. You're so nice. Already a member. Welcome, Justine. Welcome. New member right off the rip. Appreciate you. How much does it cost? I think it's $1.99 if I remember correctly. Yeah. Well, Twiz, I know you want huge lives, but I can't be doing huge lives. And the reason why is because I'm going to be very, very busy between school for my daughter. I work 2 jobs, which is why you're going to be getting like 30-minute videos out of me reading all of these unsealed docs. I'm not going to have time to sit there for 4 hours reading unsealed docs. What I will have time for is to make videos, though. So if we get, say, the alternate perpetrator docs, you're going to have the filing for it, the evidence that was filed in support of, you're going to have the state's objection, you're going to have the defense's reply, you're going to have the judge's order. You're going to get a video from me with all of that in one and keep it all together. So anything that belongs together is going to stay together. Filings that belong together stay together. And I'll be doing a video. Get what I'm saying? So it should be a lot more cohesive. It should be a lot more, all of the filings that go together are going to be together. And it's not going to be all over the place. And it should be a lot more consistent. So I appreciate you, Justine, joining as a member. Thank you so very much. And hopefully more to come. But go enjoy the rest of your Friday night. Head on over to Truth Nation Uncensored. I'm getting out of here. Mods, love you. Thank you for being here. And, hopefully I will see y'all soon.